Hey YouTube, how's it going? Dustin Smith here with A2K, Allegiance to the King, and today we got another exciting Friday video for you on the subject of responsibly reading the book of Revelation. Hopefully you've been encouraged by our Revelation videos that we put out every single Friday here on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/allegiance to the King. Today we're going to be looking at an interesting theme within the book of Revelation, a theme that's been overlooked by a lot of people, and that is the theme of paradoxical conquering, okay? Paradoxical conquering. I want to demonstrate this theme by talking about conquering. Conquering was a concept and a theme that was known in the first century in the Roman world. Conquering is what the conqueror did to those who were conquered by defeating them, by overcoming them with force, and by killing them generally with violence and with bloodshed, okay? And so what we're going to see is that this theme gets picked up as a major theme in the book of Revelation, and the readers, the recipients of the book of Revelation, the Christians, are called to conquer. And so the question is, why in the world are they supposed to conquer in the way that everyone else conquers? Are Christians called to conquer by defeating their enemies, by overcoming them, and by killing them with the sword and with bloodshed? Is that really what's supposed to take place? Well, let's look at some of the passages here and see if we could figure this out, okay? Of course, the book of Revelation is full of a lot of these paradoxes that the reader is supposed to keep in tension because it gives a lot more meaning and power to its message. Let's look at the letters to the seven churches in Revelation chapter 2 and verse 7. At the end of every single one of the seven churches, the letter ends by inviting the reader to conquer, to overcome, and to be victorious. And then there is a reward that is promised to those who are conquering. Revelation 2:7 says, "He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To him who is conquering, I will grant to eat of the tree of life, which is in the paradise of God." Okay? Revelation 2:7. The one who is conquering, it's a present participle, the one who is conquering is going to receive the authority to eat of the tree of life, which is in the paradise of God. Next passage is in Revelation 2, verse 11, where Jesus says, "He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. He who is conquering will not be hurt by the second death." Okay? Again, the Christians are encouraged to be conquering, to overcome, and to be victorious. The very end of the book actually kind of caps off with this theme of conquering, the theme of overcoming, the theme of being victorious. Look in Revelation 21 and verse 7, where the reader is encouraged by these words. "He who conquers, he who is overcoming, will inherit these things, and I will be his God, and he will be my son." Okay, so the passage in Revelation 21 talks about the various things that the conquerors, the Christian overcomers, can receive, they can inherit, and of course God promises to be their God, and they will be his children. Okay, but again, the readers in the first century who read these things or had these things read to them would have been asking the question, are we really supposed to conquer in the same way that everyone else conquers? Because those Roman conquerors, they do it with force, they do it with might, they do it with bloodshed, they do it with killing people, they do it with the sword. Is this really what this book is telling us that we're supposed to be doing? But we get an answer to this because we see that Jesus, the Lamb, is the one who has conquered, and specifically here, this is an important point, Jesus is the one that redefines conquering in the book of Revelation, and thus gives the correct definition to how Christians are supposed to be conquerors, how Christians are supposed to be overcomers. Let's look at some of these passages. The last letter to the seven churches, the church in Laodicea, has a clue for us. In Revelation 3:21, it says, "He who overcomes," or the one who is conquering, "I will grant to him to sit down with me on my throne, as I also conquered," as I also overcame, "and sat down with my Father on his throne." Okay? So Christians here are told to conquer, and they get to sit down with Jesus on his throne, just as Jesus conquered, just as Jesus overcame, and got to sit down with God on his throne. Okay? So the way that Christians are supposed to conquer are likened unto the way that Jesus himself conquered. Okay? So now I'm asking the question, did Jesus conquer in the way that the Romans did? Did Jesus defeat his enemies? Well, on the cross, it looked like that the enemies defeated Jesus, okay? Did Jesus act like the Romans and defeat his enemies with the sword and with bloodshed? No, it looks like on the cross that the Romans defeated Jesus with bloodshed. So Jesus doesn't look like a conqueror in the way that most people would have understood what a conqueror looks like, okay? But we get another clue about this in Revelation chapter 5 and verse 5, where it says, one of the elders said to John the Revelator, "Stop weeping. Behold, the Lion that is from the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has conquered so as to open the scroll and its 7 seals." Okay? Jesus here tells us that he is the one that is the conqueror, but how did Jesus conquer? He conquered by dying. Okay? He conquered by sacrificing himself on the cross. And so we can look at Jesus and his life, and we can see that there are ways that Jesus conquered in his life. We can look at the Christian Gospels, the 4 Christian Gospels, but there are also clues in the book of Revelation that indicate that Jesus is the one that redefines conquering and redefines overcoming for Christians, okay? And in the book of Revelation, we don't have the time to look at all of these examples. In the book of Revelation, Jesus is the example and teaches the readers that they need to be these paradoxical conquerors in 3 distinct ways. Number 1, they conquer by preaching an alternative kingdom, an alternative empire, as faithful witnesses of Jesus. In Jesus' life, he preached an alternative empire. He preached an alternative kingdom. He preached the gospel of the kingdom. So Christians conquer by maintaining the testimony of Jesus, meaning they maintain Jesus' testimony, Jesus' gospel. They preach the alternative kingdom, the alternative empire to the Roman Empire, or to whichever empire that readers of Revelation are living in their own day. Okay? The second thing that they do is that they maintain their faithfulness to God for the entirety of their life. Okay? They are faithful, they endure, they demonstrate a perseverance and a steadfastness. Those are the words that are used in Revelation to describe the Christians. They have perseverance and steadfastness. They maintain a life of faithfulness to God even unto the end. They don't compromise, they don't backslide, and they don't give up the faith. Of course, Jesus is the one that was obedient even to the point of death on a cross, as Philippians 2 says, okay? The third thing that Christian conquerors are told to do is that they need to be willing to be faithful even to the point of being martyred, okay? They need to be willing to give up their life for the sake of living in allegiance to the Lamb, in allegiance to God, and if they need to be martyred, then so be it. And that sounds kind of scary to a lot of people today, but the reality is that Jesus was martyred in his faithfulness to God, and God vindicated Jesus by raising him from the dead, which is why the promise of resurrection from the dead is the promise to those who have been martyred, because it encourages them to be faithful and to not compromise and not to think that death is a deterrent to them being faithful. So again, just as a recap, Christians are called to conquer in the book of Revelation, but not conquer in the same way that the Roman world conquers, through violence, through bloodshed, through defeating their enemies with brute force, okay? They conquer in the way that Jesus conquered. How did Jesus conquer? Jesus conquered by maintaining the witness and preaching the gospel of the kingdom. Jesus conquered by being faithful, steadfast, and resolute and enduring all the way to the end of his life. And thirdly, if it came to the point of martyrdom, as Jesus was martyred, Christians are willing to be conquered in that way. Hopefully this has encouraged you in your understanding of the book of Revelation as a devotional book, as a book that encourages you in your Christian life, and as a book that specifically gets you to follow in allegiance to the Lamb, allegiance to the King. All right? Be sure to like, subscribe, and share for more videos from A2K. My name is Dustin Smith. I'm with Allegiance to the King. And until next time, take care.